Chaper 1863 blue sky for a moment. Ytujier and others were certainly unwilling to sit and wait for death. They didn't know how strong the defense of Tianhai Fortress was. However, at this moment, they all wanted to kill everyone in Zhang Yi's team immediately. Therefore, everyone used their own powerful strength to launch a fierce attack on Tianhai Fortress. Aleb's holy sword, Judge, was burning with holy fire, and a raging fire spread across the prairie. Whoosh! The flames swept in from the end of the abyss, impacting the defense field of Tianhai Fortress like a tsunami. Ichigo's scarlet sword swept across, the red energy crystals providing him with energy. The sword's power was overloaded, exceeding the limits placed on their abilities by the managers. The sword light tore through the sky, fiercely slashing at the defensive force field of the Tianhai Fortress. Each of them used their own powerful and terrifying attack. However, the towering fortress remained motionless, with its defensive force field shaking slightly, blocking most of the attacks. Even if the energy penetrates the defensive force field, it will be absorbed by the barrier stone. Even if they could penetrate the first 2 layers of defense, the last layer of physical defense, a barrier 15 meters thick made of metal shell, and a large amount of alloy materials, could not absorb all their attacks. This is Zhang Yi's most powerful defensive method. It was he who could protect him from the wind and rain, even if he lost all his strength after the war. All kinds of attacks bombarded the Tianhai Fortress, but did not even cause its shell to crack in the slightest. At this time, Zhang Yi and Lu Ran had completed the charging. Goodbye. The first enemy he chose to attack was Ichigo. Of these, the one Zhang Yi wanted to kill the most must be him, and Ytujier was also one of the most dangerous beings he considered. The power of the city defense sniper far exceeds that of the magic rifle held by Zhang Yi. This shot can penetrate a distance of hundreds of kilometers, comparable to a missile, and the power of the fixed-point attack is even greater than that. The speed was too fast. Ichigo anticipated the attack and determined its trajectory. It was impossible for his body to escape from the range of the attack. Because Zhang Yi's second hand of time predicted his movement trajectory, he was able to make a second turn in the path of attack. Boom! A huge black light directly submerged Ichigo, and the terrifying force wrapped him up and rushed into the distance. He felt his body shattered, and in a hurry, Ichigo also burst out his true strength. As the king of an advanced mechanical civilization, he is half human and half mechanical, so he can use all the abilities that the demon god machine can use. The red energy crystal burned crazily, bursting out with overloaded power, which was fiercely released from the tip of his sword. Just like using a sword to split the waves, his sword split the black light in two. Oh, order something. Zhang Yi raised his eyelids. But not much. Because if it comes to ammunition competition, Zhang Yi will definitely not lose. Lu Baran and Yang Xinxin controlled the turrets of the 8 Tianhai cannons, aimed at the aliens, and started bombing. Before Ichigo had time to relax, a cannon with a larger caliber and more powerful power was aimed at him. After he fought with Zhang Yi, there was a brief loss of strength in his body, and then the roar of Tianhai's cannon rang out. The black barrel turned red in an instant, and an extremely powerful energy spurted out from the barrel in a cylindrical shape, covering the area where Ichigo was. He had just used up all his strength at this point, and it was impossible for him to mobilize the energy of his body again, because his body was also damaged by the explosion of the death of love. In an instant, he was hit hard by Tianhai's cannon. The red laser cannon penetrated the space like a pillar of heaven, and it actually spanned hundreds of kilometers along the way, with an incomparable momentum. The situation of the others was not much better. They found it extremely difficult to cope with this terrifying attack. What's more, Brian the dog has been increasing the gravity of the area they are in, greatly interfering with their movements. Escape? What is the meaning of that? Zhang Yi placed the city in his own different space. Unless they killed Zhang Yi, they would lose the victory. Even if they could escape, could their city escape? The straight-line distance from here to the city of King Arthur's team is less than 100 kilometers. If they retreat, even if they return to the city, The city built of stone with almost no defense power cannot withstand the bombardment of Tianhai Fortress. It was impossible to advance or retreat, which put Yichigel and others in a desperate situation. Yichigel's eyes radiated a fiery light, and a strong sense of unwillingness filled his heart. It took a lot of effort and sacrifice to find this place, and now I am almost at the last step. Do you mean we have to fall here? In his heart, he began to envy Zhang Yi's ability, but he could do nothing. Because in order to achieve mechanical ascension, the kangaroo tribe almost abandoned the original path of supernatural evolution. Because of this, after he entered the light gate, he was unable to fight with the powerful and terrifying armed equipment of his race. Otherwise, if he had used those weapons, he would definitely have the upper hand at this time. Yichigel was furious, saying that all this was meaningless. There is no other way but to keep fighting. The 5 top aliens were already covered in wounds, and now they were being chased and bombed by Tianhai Fortress, forcing them into a miserable state. Alexei had already endured the power of the explosion of the death of love, and his body was seriously injured. At this time, he was bombarded by Tianhai's cannon and was covered in blood. He covered his mouth with one hand, and blood plasma flowed out through his fingers. However, Zhang Yi did not show mercy. This trial would not result in real death, and there was no possibility for the 2 parties to join forces. After 7 days, if more than one party survives, all will be considered failures. Therefore, both sides must die in battle. On the battlefield, a pitch-black hemispherical fortress was frantically bombarding 5 of the world's top aliens. They tried their best to break through the thick defenses, but every time they tried their best to break through a layer of defense, they were shocked to find that there was an even stronger layer of defense behind it. The most desperate thing for them was that even if they could completely capture the fortress, then they were greeted by 4 aliens in good condition. How should we fight this battle? How on earth are they going to win? No one knows the answer. At this moment, a huge net suddenly covered the sky. The net spread out like fishing. The silver silk thread covered it with a sharp light, like a huge pagoda. The birdcage directly covers the entire fortress. Pokong has arrived. The joining of an alien in his prime to the battlefield undoubtedly added fresh strength to this army that was about to run out of fuel. Once it happened, they had already communicated through special instruments and equipment. For advanced civilizations, this is not difficult to do. The caged bird that breaks through the air is a space-based ability. It has a strong binding ability and can block the displacement skill of Space Shuttle. Yichigel and others took a break, and they finally had a chance to catch their breath. But after Zhang Yi saw the huge bird cage, he just said without any emotion, "Nothing is indestructible except speed. No matter how powerful your caged bird is, it is just a supernatural power." Just like Hisan Luo Wanxiang, no matter how powerful the defense is, it will definitely be broken as long as the attacking force is strong enough. Lu Baran and Yang Xinxin were in the control room at this time, launching the Tianhai cannon. Tons of stone materials were directly consumed, and the energy consumed by each attack was extremely staggering, but in exchange, it was an extremely powerful energy cannon. The thick barrel of the Tianhai cannon roared, shooting out a red energy beam, fiercely bombarding the birdcage. The caged bird that was so proud of breaking through the air was shattered by a single blow. Pokong's expression changed, and he also landed on a piece of sky, looking at the huge monster-like fortress as if facing a great enemy. How did he bring this thing in? Isn't this against the rules? Olib said in a deep voice. What the manager hasn't said is that there are no taboos and you can do whatever you want. Even if he finds a loophole in the rules, the manager will strictly abide by the rules she has set. After all, she is the wisest person. Yichigel's face looked extremely ugly. If he had known this earlier, he should have brought in a few combat-type super-large mechanical life forms. No matter how strong the defense of this thing is, even if 3 super-large mechanical life forms work together, they can't break it. Whatever you say now is just hindsight. Do you have any way to break through this defense? Otherwise, we will be killed by him one by one sooner or later. Changwon opened her mouth coldly. Yichigel narrowed his eyes. Even if I use all my strength, I can only break 2 layers of its defense at most. I can't break through 3 layers by myself. Besides, breaking through the defense will require me to use up all my strength. Not to mention that I will have to face the 4 of them directly afterwards. Who can guarantee that there won't be something else waiting for us after entering that fortress? He was telling the truth, and everyone's hearts sank at this moment. No, there is another way to break through his defense. A woman's voice sounded in everyone's ears. The lord of the Fremon's pantheon, the winter goddess, Morana, also rushed to the battlefield. After she arrived, her eyes were fixed on the direction where Zhang Yi was like a poisonous snake. Zhang Yi spotted Morana from a distance through the scope, a smile forming on his face. Everyone is here. Very good. Now, I will help you eliminate your opponents as agreed with you. This voice rang in the ears of Morana and his children, making them almost angry to death. However, they could not say that Zhang Yi broke his promise. Morana came riding on the great wall of ice and snow, and the earth that had been burning due to the war quickly cooled down. The temperature of the air dropped sharply, and snowflakes began to float in the sky. Morana looked at Zhang Yi coldly, and without any hesitation, he unfolded his own domain, Absolute Zero. When this move was performed, it directly froze the entire space. Even the area where Zhang Yi was located was blocked. However, Zhang Yi just looked at Morana indifferently. His eyes were extremely cold. The ability of Second Hand of Time allows him to predict everything that will happen within 3 seconds, and naturally, he also predicts Morana's ability. Yes, guess why he didn't hide? Of course, it was because the fortress moved too slowly and could not escape Morana's territory at all. So, from the perspective of Yichigel and others at this time, the space where Zhang Yi and others were located was in a static state. Great, now we can break the shell. A look of joy appeared on Ollie's face. Morana slowly stepped into this area. Everything was still, including Zhang Yi, who was sitting in the driving seat of the city defense sniper. The others could only watch, because their attacks would become almost static after entering this area. Only Morana can move freely in this area. Morana walked into this area with her right hand open. The biting cold air condensed in her palm and turned into a javelin. She looked at Zhang Yi coldly, murderous intent revealed. The feeling of being played around by others made her extremely unhappy, so now she had to kill Zhang Yi in order to restore her dignity. Call out. The javelin made of frost flew towards Zhang Yi, but sank into the dimensional gate the moment it touched it. Morana's eyes narrowed. Even though the movement of this space was almost still, the defense of the dimensional gate was still difficult to break. Because, strictly speaking, the dimensional gate is neither material nor the manifestation of supernatural energy. It is just a door, a place of nothingness, connecting to another world. Therefore, there is no concept of being fragile just because of being still. Therefore, if one wants to destroy it, one must inject enough energy into the different dimensional space to cause the entire space to collapse and make it disappear. Morana raised her hands, and a terrifying ice storm condensed between her palms. She was concentrating her own special energy to make the most powerful attack, directly penetrate Zhang Yi's dimensional door, and then kill him. But at this moment, she suddenly noticed that Zhang Yi's eyes moved. This startled Morana, and he stared carefully into Zhang Yi's eyes. At this time, Zhang Yi blinked and smiled at her. Sorry, I wanted to continue pretending for a while, Zhang Yi said as he pulled the trigger of his gun. The city defense sniper aimed at Morana, and a beam of light that penetrated space shot toward her. Zhang Yi was not affected by Absolute Zero. Morana was shocked, but fortunately, after the energy body of the star cannon passed through the range of the dimensional gate, the energy body also stagnated in midair. At this moment, Morana finally realized something. Absolute Zero is an ability of ice attribute, not time attribute. Freezing the movement of space will create an illusion similar to time stopping, but it is not a real time stop after all. After Zhang Yi first saw the ability of Absolute Zero, he went back and conducted research on this. This ability is too buggy. If you fall into it, you will almost become a fish on Morana's chopping board. Therefore, Zhang Yi was very frightened when he first saw it. At the same time, he was worried that the two would become enemies in the future. How should he deal with it? He discussed this problem with Yang Xinxin for a while and came up with a solution. In fact, this problem is easy to solve. She can block off the space, so isn't it enough as long as we don't stay in the space she blocks off? Zhang Yi's Senlua Wanxiang, in itself, isolating itself from space through the dimensional door. So, at this time, Zhang Yi was equivalent to creating a domain within Mirana's domain. The world within the universe will not be affected by absolute zero, so Zhang Yi can move freely. This also fully confirms one thing. In the battle between aliens, the importance of intelligence is extremely crucial. As long as the special abilities are studied and cracked, the abilities of an alien will be greatly weakened. Mirana currently has no way to deal with Zhang Yi. She frowned and was slow to release the realm. Because although she couldn't kill Zhang Yi and others were trapped in the huge fortress and couldn't move. Hurry up and find a way to kill them. Malana said this to the others. The absolute zero can block physical movement, but the spirit and telepathy can pass through. Think of a way. They can't move now. Gaomai Kansahikami came forward, holding a long piece of thick hemp rope in his hand, and said in a sharp voice, "Leave it to me." He raised his hand and threw the rope in his hand into the air. The sky became dark and unclear, and a huge black cloud formed a vortex in the sky. Soon after, 3 huge torii descended from the sky, and with a boom, they landed outside the realm of absolute zero, trapping Mirana and Zhang Yi's fortress inside it. Thick hemp ropes connect the 3 torii gates. The largest one is like a mountain and is decorated with ghost faces. Rashomon. Note: the noun comes from the Japanese classical story collection Kagamonogatari, which refers to the door between hell and the human world. Based on this, the Japanese writer Ryuki Akutagawa created the novel Rashomon, which was later introduced by Japanese comics. Gaomai Kansu's sun god clasped his hands together, muttered something, and his eyes radiated a scarlet light. Zhang Yi had no idea what he was doing, but he vaguely felt his body becoming hot. He looked at the 3 huge torii gates, with their frightening designs of evil spirits. At this moment, Zhang Yi saw countless possible futures. Second hand of time, start. He saw what was going to happen after this move, so he had to stop it. Because Gaomai Kansahikami's move must be an attack on the spiritual level, and he is not good at resisting the invasion of this ability. So the best way is to break the deadlock in advance. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with white light, causing his pupils to distort with the light. The dark pupils disappeared, replaced by the hands of an old-fashioned pendulum clock that slowly turned in front of my eyes. At this moment, the pointer symbolizing the needle slowly moved 1 grid. When solving the trolley problem, the manager appreciated Zhang Yi's ideas and gave him a special reward. Although it is only a small reward, as a god-level civilization manager, the reward given to humans is a huge gift. This also allowed Zhang Yi's time attributability, which had been difficult to develop, to finally be liberated again. Time Needle releases the ability, Moment of the Blue Sky. When the needle turned, the whole world came to a standstill. The entire universe fell into stillness. What is the concept of time? This question was once asked to Yang Xinxin by Zhang Yi after he unlocked his time ability. If you want to develop your own time ability, then you must understand. What is time? Does time exist? Is it just the law of motion of matter, or is it a real substance? String theory believes that time is a curled string hidden in the space we live in. It is a substance that can only be seen at high latitudes. Only in this way can we explain the existence of such a thing as predicting the future. According to the theory of relativity, when an object's speed exceeds the speed of light, time flows backwards. Therefore, when the speed of an object reaches the speed of light, time will completely stop. Therefore, after an individual accelerates infinitely and reaches the speed of light, he or she will believe that the universe is stationary relative to him or her. The ability of a moment in the blue sky is to accelerate oneself infinitely to the speed of light in an instant, creating a true standstill of time. This is also the reason why Zhang Yi was able to escape from the caged bird at the beginning. Mirana's absolute zero is just matter approaching a static state, while Zhang Yi's a moment in the blue sky is an absolute moment of stillness. He passed through Mirana's absolute zero realm and came in front of her. He pinched her slender neck with his right hand and exerted a little force. Crack. Mirana's neck was directly broken. In an instant, Mirana died. The entire realm of absolute zero was also disintegrated. Zhang Yi felt as if his body was about to break apart. Every muscle and bone was aching. Even if he relied on his supernatural powers to protect his body, even if it was an ability he activated by himself, the brief moment when his body moved at the speed of light still put a huge strain on him. His body almost fell apart in midair. However, he still killed Mirana, one of the biggest threats to him at the moment. Fortunately, Zhang Yi gave orders to the combat suit's intelligence system in advance and immediately injected repair drugs into his body, repairing his body at the fastest speed. The damage to the body was not a big problem for Zhang Yi, as he never engaged in close combat with the opponent. But next, there are very troublesome problems waiting for him. Because when he opened his eyes, he saw the three Rashomon slowly opening and horrifying black air gushing out from them, emitting the howling of evil spirits, and countless spirits pounced on him. The defense of the Wohei fortress was completely useless in front of these evil ghost spirits, and it was completely unable to resist these existences. The next moment, Zhang Yi was surrounded by evil spirits. The evil spirits piled up like a mountain around him, with hideous faces and blood all over the ground, completely drowning him.